How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to discuss the best day of my life. And I think it's relevant to note right now that there isn't a big, obvious one for me right now. But down the line, I could see the best days of my life being the day I proposed to my wife and the day of my wedding. Especially because how I see that, if I am with someone for so long, I've seen them in multiple little stages of life, and we still love each other, I could see that person being my wife. But it would take a long time. I would want them to see me in every scenario and still love me, and vice versa. So marriage would be the last thing for me in a romantic relationship. I would ideally want to live with her first and get to know her completely before straight up putting the label on of my wife. And thus, when I have the celebration of the wedding, I really would want that to feel like happily ever after type shit. The honeymoon that comes after could also stick out to me as the best days of my life. And down the line, finding out that my wife is pregnant, ideally with my child, and the days any of my children are born. But yeah, obviously none of that has happened yet. I'm only 20 after all. So today, I'll be discussing the best days of my life up to this point. The first one that sticks out to me is the day my girlfriend and I became official. We're no longer together, but I thought it was really cool how it was months of hanging out, and I thought she was beautiful and amazing from day one. And we became best friends, and we cared about each other enough to the point that it made sense to romantically be together and consider ourselves boyfriend and girlfriend. It was at the end of a field trip, the last high school field trip, and on the bus ride back, she just asked me, "Do you want to be my boyfriend?" And I said, yeah. And it felt really freaking cool. I remember kind of pulling a goofball, and I went home and I just took a picture of myself in the mirror. I was really tired. I hadn't slept in a minute, but I was just kind of like, wow, I did it. I have a girlfriend. I'm so cool. And of course, I don't mean to objectify her. She's not something to win. It's not about that. It's more just a personal milestone. Because I knew I was straight since I was a little ass kid. And I obviously always wanted a girlfriend. Someone to have that companionship with. And that was the day where I actually got that. So I was just like, wow, this is something I wanted for a long time. And I actually got it. And she was amazing. So that's definitely up there. It was one of the best days of my life. And also the field trip was to an amusement park. Lots of roller coasters I went on for the first time. So I overcame those fears there. And on the subject of overcoming fears, earlier this year, I went skydiving for the first time. And it was very early in the morning. Very quick. It definitely didn't take the whole day or anything. So most of that day was the usual kind of thing, but that specific activity of skydiving for the first time, I would definitely say is up there. That morning, right before I jumped out of the plane, I wasn't really even dreading it. It felt like ripping off a Band-Aid. It was necessary to do, a little bit scary, but so worth it. It just needs to get done. That's how I viewed skydiving. I'm glad I did it. I would gladly do it again, and I totally recommend it. And they actually sent me a video of my experience. I look like an absolute goofball, so you get the idea. Next up is the day my brother was born. I had no heads up beforehand. I was just kind of at grandma's house, and the next thing I knew, I was just getting texts that he was born now and alive and kicking, and that was really cool. So honestly, similar to the skydiving, the day was a standard day, but the moment that he was born, that's obviously what was huge. If I was literally at the hospital, that would have been a more impactful experience. But don't get me wrong, it was still a huge deal. It obviously kicked in later on how amazing having him in my life was, because when I was an only child, I'd be playing all these multiplayer games like Mario solo all the time. Now I have that buddy to play with, you know? But yeah, I love my little brother. He's a good kid, so obviously the day he was born was huge to me. And also, I could say the best days of my life were my childhood, because in theory, I had the least amount of responsibilities, right? I was kind of just cruising, playing on my Wii, playing on my DS, watching PBS Kids, watching Cubo. Shows like Curious George and frickin' Caillou were my greatest pastimes. Not too much else in the world really mattered, and I just felt like I was in good hands. But just because life was simpler, I don't believe it was better. Now I have more responsibilities. I'm more of an adult here at 20 years old, but life is obviously elevated now. I can do things. I can drive a car. I can go out with friends and be out of the house way more often. I have more power. Power comes with responsibility. But yeah, most importantly, my quality of life is better. My life has been elevated. Therefore, I wouldn't necessarily say the past was better. than my current present. And with that, let me know some of the best days of your life in the comments below. Thank you for listening. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one.